Okay. That was an interesting media day around the league. I think there were a lot of little vibe checks and tidbits to talk about. You know where we're going to start. We're going to start with Dub Nation and the Warriors. And I think the biggest news was over the weekend, it was revealed that Draymond has sprained an ankle. Came down on Kuminga's foot in a pickup game. And I don't know, is there an official timetable for it? Is it like 3 to 6 weeks is what I'm hearing, right? But he shows up at media day yesterday, no crutches, no boot, no limp, But, if you've rolled an ankle, hoopers or non-hoopers, it's pretty easy to disguise an ankle injury if you're just walking, right? It's when you do something laterally or you got to go up steps or something like that is where it'll show up. But Draymond, being as tough as he is, it's no surprise that you couldn't tell, right? But perhaps he's downplaying it. We don't know how severe it actually is, but he said he's a quick healer and, he's going to be reevaluated in 2 weeks. So I'm optimistic about it. I don't think it was as catastrophic as maybe some people were worried about. And then when you look at quick healers and stuff like that, stiff players tend to have more trouble with ankle rolls. When you look at like a LeBron or a Kawhi, they tend to play more upright, and which usually means they're a little more stiff in the hips and the ankles. And then when they roll it, it's just a longer recovery period because it's one thing to have ankle flexion and bounce and athleticism, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have flexibility laterally and in different mobilities with it. So Draymond seems to, right? KD is a good example. How many times have you seen KD completely roll an ankle, shoe comes off, and he's kind of good, right? He's got a ton of flexibility in that lanky body. But yeah, that was the news over the weekend that I think everybody was concerned about. But it seems like he said, dodged a bullet. And if I were willing to guess, if I was a betting man, I think Draymond will be in uniform opening night against the Suns and his old friend Kevin Durant. If you don't know, I cover the Warriors better than anybody on YouTube. It's just a fact. It's a humble brag, or it's just a brag. But if you're new to the channel, I mostly cover the Warriors, but I sprinkle in other NBA coverage. And in talking about the Warriors, I talk about the opponents, the rivalries. And so you're getting full NBA coverage in what I feel is a unique way. So if you haven't already, please hit the subscription and bell button to keep this channel moving forward. Next up, let's talk about Chris Paul. And the obvious question looming over this team, are you going to be willing to accept coming off the bench? Of course, they can make him coming off the bench, right? But is he going to accept the role? Is he going to do it wholeheartedly? Let me play you his response.
How much does that matter to you?
For me, I actually had an opportunity in 2008 to come off the bench for the Olympic team. You know what I mean? And that went pretty well. And I think anybody who knows me knows that I'm all about winning. You know what I mean? Whatever I can do to help our team win. So I know coaching us, we're going to talk about it and see what it looks like. We've been hooping all summer, and I think, for the season, it's going to be whatever to help our team win. And I think I've at least tried to show or proven that my entire career. So
Chris said all the right things, right? And there was some sarcasm, like a little snark to some of the reporters that asking kind of obvious questions. I'm not sure if that was Chris just trying to kind of lighten the mood, or it's just kind of his personality, right? And I think you can tell, listen, this may sound kind of strange, but you can tell how sensitive of a dude he is by, the way he speaks, his tone and his voice and just his eyes. Like, he's a sensitive dude, a fiery dude, right? It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but you can tell that about Chris. We've watched his whole career, right? And so, yeah, this is part of who Chris Paul is, his professionalism. You knew he was going to say all the right things when it pertained to the young players, playing with Draymond, right? And he just wants to be a winner. I think that is his true intent. That's his intent, no doubt about it. But again, it's one thing to say all the right things. It's another thing to do all the right things, right? And that's what we have to gauge. Is he's sensitive, he can get emotional, and what is his body language? Are his actions congruent with what he's saying? Because I'm not even going to really talk about Steph during his because Steph is Steph, right? Steph, and Steph always says the right things, and it can get boring at times, right? But the thing is, Steph always does the right things, right? He's congruent in what he says and what he does, and that's what makes him the leader that he is, right? And so Chris is always going to say, what he's supposed to say. Is he doing what he was saying is my question. But, when it comes to he and Draymond as the two vocal leaders of this team, I think they can play off each other. And I think they can help each other, not just on the court, but as being the voices in the locker room, right? And as far as they can take turns being good cop, bad cop, right? With the young guys and different guys. And what it'll do is it will make sure that their voice doesn't wear thin, right? And there's not a burnout, right? If it's constantly Draymond giving the speeches and trying to tell guys to do this and being that motivator and whatnot, halfway through the year, it can ring on deaf ears, right? But if it's he and Chris kind of taking turns and reversing roles, then I think that they can both be more effective in their leadership roles by sharing it. So I think that that's a positive. But yeah, man, I think overall, I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic in Chris buying in, playing his role and his fit with this team. And I don't think it's just lip service. I think what he said is fully his intent. But as we know, we as humans, what we intend to happen isn't always what happens, right? So we've got to watch it play out. But I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic to see this alternate universe where Chris Paul is a part of this, right? Next up, let's talk Klay Thompson, right? He is in a contract year. The first thing I noticed about Klay up there for the media day is he kept touching his face and his neck. And, body language 101, right? When someone does that, it's kind of a sign of vulnerability and they're kind of uncomfortable. And so Klay was uncomfortable up there and didn't look like he really wanted to make eye contact with any of the media. But here, let me play you a little snippet here about what he said.
You and Steve are both on expiring deals, specifically with your situation. Do you feel like an extension is possible in the next, month or so? And if not, just how do you kind of feel as you look towards the future?
I think it's possible. And if not, life is still great. Like, I'm playing basketball in my 13th year in the NBA. So I have no complaints for whatever the future has in store. Like, done so many great things in this uniform, and I know there are many more memories to create. So whatever happens, life is great. I can't really complain. I've had an incredible run here, and I look forward to making more great memories with the guys.
Those of you that have been following me a while, Klay's my favorite Warrior. He's my favorite Warrior of all time. I'm not sure I buy the I've accomplished so much that no matter what, I'm good and I'm grateful thing. I mean, that sounds good. If you know Klay, if you followed him, the fieriness and, he's, I'm not sure I buy all that. There was kind of a weird, awkward media day for Klay. But Klay can be that, right? He is aloof and stuff like that. So I'm not necessarily saying it's negative, but I just noticed he was uncomfortable and he tried to say the right things. However, the positivity of him playing all summer, and I know that he had apparently this mental block after the injuries that he didn't want to play pickup ball and in the summers and stuff. I'm not sure how much he did that before the injuries, to be honest with you. We know Klay has many interests. He's a international man of the world, right? I don't know how you say that, but what I'm getting at here is about 2 years removed from all the injuries and having a summer of work, I think what we're going to see is final form Klay. And what that means, I'm sure, is some stretch power forward in this small roster, right? But what I would like to see him get back to is moving better off the ball, right? And continue to grow as a playmaker. Last season, I think he caught himself sometimes, right? There was some blocks of the season last year where Klay was just letting it fly. He was being selfish. There's no other way to put it as far as his shot selection goes. And once he kind of would ring it in, he showed the ability to create, right? He'd get downhill, dump it off to Looney. So I'd like to see him grow with that, move a little more off the ball like he did in his younger days offensively. But I think as far as physically goes, in a mental state, contract year, I'm excited to see, this best version of Klay post-injury. And then Steph, again, is Steph, right? He's not going to really give you much. He's just going to say the standard answers, but that's also why we love him, because it's congruent. He actually is doing it, right? We know Steph's ready to go. That's all I have as far as the Warriors media coverage. The first preseason game is Saturday against the Lakers. If you don't know, my patron, I cover every Warrior game that's played in a 12 to 15-minute breakdown, quarter by quarter, play by play. You get some commentary, some X's and O's, some comedy, and just some overall big picture thoughts. And sign up, support me. You can see I'm not running ads on here anymore. They've demonetized me. So if you like the channel and you like my content, that's really the best way to support me is sign up for the Patreon, follow along with me for the season, and you get the full context of my takes. And if you miss games, my breakdown got you. If there's a Tuesday night game you can't get to, or a Sunday matinee or Saturday matinee, those are the tough ones. The Patreon, you'll get a full breakdown and you'll feel like you didn't miss anything. So consider the Patreon, link in the description. Let's jump around the league a little bit because there was some weird stuff yesterday, man. Let's start in Miami with Emo Jimmy. What? Listen, how can you not respect Jimmy Butler as a player and his journey to, where he's at, right? There's no doubt about it. But the thirst for attention, I'm not a fan of. To me, and everybody's cut differently, and you can say trolling, attention. To me, it's the same thing. You are a superstar playing for the Miami Heat. Like you should get enough attention. I think everybody knows who any sports fan knows Jimmy Butler. Pretty much any basketball fan. I don't know why he needs that attention. I don't love that. And my question is, like, if they would have landed Dame, would he have just shown up with clean braids and just acted normal and not needed this attention? Was this legit some, because I do think there was some of that, but I also think if they would have landed Dame, he would have showed up with some other gimmick like he did last year with the extensions, right? Because again, that thirst for attention, everyone's different, but I don't love it. But honestly, the Heat, they kind of feel like they're in shambles right now. They kind of feel like that's what I saw when you looked at Tyler Herro was, he's talking about, Portland are losers. I ain't worried about Portland. And then they asked him, do you feel wanted by the Heat organization? And he looks down and goes, I don't feel not wanted. Like that's rough. Like, right. He's been all he's heard all year or all off season is you're not enough. Like, we don't want you over here. You're not of value. And then at the same time, understanding that the team you are with is like, that's the asset they want to get rid of. So, I kind of feel for the kid. I understand where he would be, not in the greatest of spirits. Kyle Lowry skipped media day in favor of a buffet probably somewhere on South Beach. He didn't want to speak to the media, right? And so I think the Heat, not only are they dealing with a finals loss hangover probably, right? But I think they mentally all summer were preparing for Dame. And now they kind of have to flip the switch and say, all right, well, now we have enough anyway. We didn't need Dame anyway. Oh, yeah, we've lost Gabe Vincent and Max Strus. And so, listen, we know the Heat culture, Spo, like they're going to be a playoff team, no doubt about it. But I think that this was a rough off season, not just in missing out on Dame, but just psychologically what it's done to the roster. Meanwhile, in Toronto, it sounds like they are graciously showing Pascal Siakam the door. Like, you want to talk about awkward vibes? The Raptors media day might take the taco on that one. Is that a saying? Here, I have a couple clips for you. Here's Ujiri.
Believe in Pascal. We do believe that a lot of our players didn't play the right way last year. And we want to see them play the right way. I said it that we were selfish. I'm not running away from that. We were selfish and we did not play the right way. So let us see it when we play the right way.
And then here's a short one from Siakam.
Yeah, I think I let those type of questions to the people that represent me. That's kind of like why I pay them. So I don't have to answer that. So, yeah.
Now, the GM also had stuff to say, like, hey, if we can't provide spacing, if our player is double teamed, he needs to pass it. And they basically said he was playing selfish last season. And Siakam was kind of like, well, I'm here now, right? That's all I can do. And so it just, look, the writing is on the wall. Siakam is probably going to be the next big name moved. And especially when Majiri said, oh yeah, it was probably a mistake not to trade Fred VanVleet at the deadline, and he walked for free, right? So they just experienced that. So Siakam is the name probably that's going to be on the move next. Maybe Miami's going to pounce on that, right? But that was really awkward. Speaking of awkward, these are some smooth transitions in today's video, right? Kawhi Leonard.
What are they?
Just, I know that you've gotten a lot of flack for, load management and just, only resting certain players, in certain situations. So just would love to hear your thoughts on that.
I just don't know the policy. What is the policy, though? Just
okay. I'm going to ask you a different question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry. Cool. No, it's totally okay. Just would love to know how you're feeling, if you did anything differently in the off season that maybe you hadn't tried in previous off seasons.
No. I mean, you try different stuff every year. I mean, every year is a new journey. So every day. So you do new things, but you gotta, just keep going.
So here's my spicy take of the day. And I know I'm going to get a ton of pushback on this, but it's how I feel. Kawhi might just be the most overrated superstar of this generation. Seriously. He there's some fraudulence to this dude. And it's not on the court. Listen, we know the talent. We know when he's right and playing, he belongs in the conversation with the LeBrons and the KDs and the Stephs. We know that. But he's not always playing. And we also know that, right? And to me, when you're gauging a true franchise player, not Paul George, who's not a franchise player, not a star or superstar, we use these kind of subjective terms, a true franchise player, right? There's only a handful of them or so in the league. It's like judging a quarterback. It's not enough to just be this elite talent, right? It's everything else around it, because the organization is built around you. And Kawhi's lack of availability, lack of awareness, lack of communication, I just don't think you can place him with those guys. There's been so many weird and unique situations that have gained him his accolades, right? And so I don't know, man. Again, I'm not questioning his on-the-court game. That it belongs with the greats. But overall, as a franchise guy, I mean, he's a special guy. He's a special guy, if you feel what I'm saying. Last but not least, let's talk about Portland here. Blazer fans, y'all got to be excited. Y'all got to be excited about the flip and just the new look and all the assets that y'all have acquired. But then Ayton comes out, and the first thing he says is dominating, and he's going to dominate. This was Ayton's chance to he should have treated it like the kids in the It movie, right? Like, never speak of it again. We'll never speak of it again. Let's make a pact, right? Just never say that again, dog. I guess it's kind of hard when it's across his back, but I just the fact that he's leaning back into that is just like, say less, fam. Say less. Like, show us. You got to show us, right? I know that's in your intent, but you got to show us. No, but I got a kick out of that. But yeah, man, I'm excited for the season. It's snuck up on us here, right? We got the Niners rolling, covering that. But yeah, man, the season snuck up on us. Preseason starts Saturday. I'll be covering that. Check the link in the description. And as always, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.